So I went into to play at lunchtime, and at lunchtime there aren't as many people on, so I actually didn't get the full 8 max table experience, which kind of gave me a little bit more confidence to play my normal way because there was basically 5 or 6 players on the table at any one time. So let's go through. I had some interesting hands. I'm actually on the lowest stakes of table. You buy in with 5,000 virtual coins, which, you know, if I work that out to some of the math that I've worked out for cash versus virtual things, that's like $2.50. So it's really quite a low buy-in. And it's a table where people are sticky, where people don't like to fold, but they also don't know the game very well. So if you pay attention, you can recognize the ones that don't know how to play very well and use that to your advantage for building your bankroll. So let's get going. All right, so the first playable hand I had was an ace-jack offsuit, and I'm on the big blind. And as I mentioned before, in VR, people tend to be very limpy. They don't do a lot of pre-flop betting, and some people actually get mad at you if you pre-flop bet because they consider this to be like a social fun environment and not and don't want it to be like real poker in some ways. They want it to be real, but they want it to not be real. I think people just want it the way they want it. So anyway, under the gun, hijack, button, all limp, and then the small blind folds, and action is on me. So I have my raise first in charts that I've been trying to learn, Jonathan Little's raise first in charts, and of course this is in there. So I raised to 400, which is about 8 times the big blind. Everybody called, and we went 4 ways to the flop. The flop came down 3 of spades, queen of diamonds, and 10 of spades, meaning I hit absolutely nothing. But at this point, as I'm playing against new players, I've been watching some of these players. I've already been sitting on the table a little bit, and I don't sense that they're very strong players. And I heard somewhere that 2 out of 3 times you're not going to hit anything on the flop, and also that kind of applies for your opponents as well. So I decide to continuation bet. I'm the first one betting, and I bet for 1300. Everybody folds. So I take down the pot of 1625 plus my overbet, uncontested. Nice way to start. All right, so now one of my guys to the left, the guys to the left immediately there, they seem to be together, and as soon as I bet pre-flop, they were motioning at me and upset. So they don't last on the table very long. But here we are on the next hand that comes around for me. Jack 10 suited. I'm on the small blind, so I look at the raise first in charts as I'm getting ready, and it says it's just a call, flat call. But then under the gun limps, and hijack actually goes in for 1850, his entire stack. And I've been watching this guy playing with this guy for a few hands, and he's been pretty slow and pretty limpy and just matching people's bets and calling and stuff. He's been pretty passive, and all of a sudden he goes in for his full stack when the we're talking about the big blind is 50, so he's really pushed in. So I thought about it for a little bit. I really like my cards. The suited, that would be great, but I did ultimately fold. The button calls, but I folded, and I wanted to watch the rest of the action and see what the heck this guy had and go from there. So under the gun and hijack both fold, but the button called, pardon me, and now the hijack and the button go to showdown. The board runs out 7 of clubs, 7 of hearts, 10 of hearts, king of clubs, queen of hearts. Meaning I had a pair, a middle pair, but really nothing great. But the hijack actually had the ace and queen of diamonds, so if a flush had come in, he would have crushed me, and he actually had the queen, so even if I was in there, he would have taken my money. So that was a good fold, and hijack doubled up their chip stack right away. All right, let's go on to the next hand. I'm on the button. So on the button, I've got queen jack offsuit. under the gun folds, and hijack starts making these motions around his chips like he's trying to push everything in. And he pushes and pushes and tries to push, and he fails. And ultimately, he finally just bets $425. And I'm like, really? Well, I've been watching you. You haven't really bet great stuff. He's won a little bit, but he's kind of gotten lucky. I think I want to oblige him. So I go all in myself. And the small blind calls, and then the big blind raises it beyond what I had. So I was somewhere around 5,000 something. Big blind raises it to 7650, and then the hijack calls. So everybody is in this. That's crazy. We run it once, and on the flop, I start laughing. I have myself muted on my microphone as I always do. But I start laughing because I see the Queen of Hearts and the Queen of Spades and the Ace of Clubs. Eight of Clubs, pardon me. So I've got trips on the flop, and it says that I've got 96% chance to win this hand. The turn, it just seals it. Now I've got a full house. So the river doesn't really matter. It's a 10 of diamonds. And I took down a really nice pot of 21,125. Now, some people leave, and basically the only guy that is still here is the hijack guy that went in all in the previous round a little bit ago. And new guys come in on my right hand side. One of the challenges of these tables in virtual reality is that they don't always get new players coming to them quickly. So while new players may come in at the end of the round, somebody who got defeated and lost all their chips may leave, and so we're always kind of short-handed on the table. So for this one, I've got King 3 of Hearts. And now normally this is not really a hand that I would play, especially on the small blind. I would check it at the I would limp in at the very most kind of thing. With 3 players, it's almost like heads up. And in a heads up situation, King is a fantastic card. I don't know a lot about heads up poker, but I certainly know that having that King with the low thing doesn't matter as much when it comes to heads up stuff because you're, I guess, competing against less people. If you know why, please leave comments in the video in the comments below. I'd love that. So anyway, because there's only 3 of us on the table, the button is limped and I raise it to 200. Now 200 is only 4 times the big blind, so it's not really a huge raise. It's just a little bit of a, hey, let's put something in the pot raise. The big blind calls and the button calls, and there's 3 of us going to the flop. The flop comes out and it says 6 of hearts, 2 of diamonds, ace of diamonds. Again, I've hit nothing, and I don't really like that ace. But as I look around, I kind of get the feeling that, I'm not getting the feeling that these guys have the ace. So, I do have a couple of backdoor draws, of course. I've got the backdoor straight, I've got the backdoor flush draw, but I really don't like those runner things. I try not to go for them too much. If they come in, that's great, but this doesn't really look great for me. But again, I kind of sense that they're weak, and of course, this is a social video game, right? So people aren't playing seriously. This isn't real money. So you will find that people are playing a little bit more relaxed. So when so even though I did check through because I didn't know if somebody had the ace, and this is a new table to me. These are new players to me, but the big blind folds and the button checks. So I really don't think that anybody has the ace. So when the flop comes out and it's the ace of clubs, this gives me even more confidence that they likely don't have an ace. They would have bet on the first one, and when this came up, I didn't really see any reaction from anybody about this, and as I said, I'm on a newbie table here, so I don't think they're really good at covering their emotions quite as much. So I ended up betting for 700 here, kind of representing that I have the ace, or just kind of calling to putting a little call out there, a big call out there to see if he would bite, if he's got something on that board. As I was going through and planning this video, I realized that I bet too much here. Uh, if I were to instead bet smaller so that they could stay in with something that is with their bluffs, stay in with something that is close, um, and then raise if they have something good, then I wouldn't give away as much money. Here I'm risking money, and it's possible that he does actually have it, and if he calls me on it, then I'm dead. So I think I bet too much in this point, because if I look at how much is in the pot right now, it's like $500. So I overbet here, but I was very lucky, and he actually folded, and I got the pot of 600 plus overbet uncontested. But it did give me something to think about for sure for the future. Now, that guy left right away. He wasn't here for very long. I guess he didn't like that I, bullied him out of the pot at the end, or whatever you want to call it. But I'm back on the button. New guy came in on my right. We've got 3 of us on the table. Let's go. So my next hand is King 4. So I just had King 3. Now I have King 4 suited. And on the way, when the guy that I just beat, he didn't leave fast enough, so his big blind went onto the table, and then he left. So a little bit of extra money, thanks. Under the gun folds, and both myself and the small blind limp in. So now there's only 2 of us going to the flop. The flop is not bad. It's a king of diamonds, ace of spades, jack of diamonds. Now, clearly I don't have the flush draw I was hoping for, but I did get a pretty good pair in a heads-up situation. So when the small blind checks to me, I bet a small bet of 150, which is 3 big blinds, and the small blind calls. The turn comes up, and it's a 6 of clubs. Doesn't help at all. Small blind checks to me, and I bet 200, and they call. And the river comes up, and it's a 10 of hearts. I still don't have anything, and now if he has a queen, he's got a straight. So clearly, he may check to me, but I'm checking it right back. I'm not throwing any more money in, but still, it shows down, and my kings are good, and I take down a pot of about 800. Now, I have no idea what he had, because of course he mucked his cards, but okay, I'll take it. So now, let's go into the next hand. There's 3 of us here, and I've got 5-4 suited, and I'm on the big blind. The button limps in, and the small blind folds, so here we are again, looking to be heads up. So I just check this. I'm not really, I like suited connectors, but these are obviously very low, and I'm really only playing them because I'm heads up, and I just kind of want to see a flop. So let's see a cheap flop, and it comes out looking pretty favorable for me. So it's queen of clubs, ace of clubs, giving me the flush draw, and a 4 of hearts, which gives me a pair. Not a very strong pair, but I really like that flush draw. That's pretty awesome. But this guy that I'm playing against, he's been in every round. He doesn't fold easily, and I really don't want to put in money and then lose it to him at the end. So I played this round very carefully. So even though I have the flush draw, and a little baby pair, I checked, and the button checks back to me. The turn comes out, and it's ace of hearts. Now there's 2 aces on board. I don't really think that he has the first ace to begin with. But when he checks to me, that tells me no, he doesn't have it, and I check it back. The river saves me. It's the 10 of clubs, and now I have a flush. But now I'm leading out, so I bet 450. And this is another place where I look at what I did when I'm looking at my video recording and making this video and breaking it down. And I realized that on this particular game, it's difficult to see what the pot is at. And when I bet 450, that was into a pot of 125. I didn't do anything to build the pot earlier because I have these weak cards and I didn't really want to give away my money. But then at the end, I ended up like really doing an extreme bet, an over bet. So I'm really kind of surprised that he actually calls me. But again, he was really sticky. He's a new player. He's probably just playing super recreationally, just getting going or something like that. So he calls a lot of things. And that's why I also didn't try to build the pot until I actually had cards. But when we come down to showdown, again, my flush is good. I have no idea what cards he has, but I ended up taking down another pot of about 1,000. Pretty nice. It's getting to be a nice little lunch hour. And then this guy joins the table. And I could tell that he was new to the game right away, new to the headset right away, because he was awkward with how he played with his chips, how he played with his cards. This picture right here shows him looking at his cards. You've seen how I peek at my cards, and if you played or watched any videos of this, you know how people can pick them up and, you know, be quite fluid with them. But this guy, he's still getting used to the system. So therefore, I'm going to put him on somebody as he may know how to play a little bit of poker, but he's probably not going to be great at poker because most of us aren't when we start VR. So we get into a hand together and I'm on the button. And I have 4-5 offsuit. Absolutely terrible. These are terrible cards. But I limp in because I want to get into a pot with this new guy. And I've already watched him for a couple of hands that I folded out in the meantime, and he tends to just grab randomly from his chip stack and throw them in the middle, and I don't think he's really had anything for the 3 or 4 hands that I've watched him. So when he raises to 325, I don't think that means anything. And in my video, I'm actually saying, hey, bud, I don't think you know how to play. I think I'm going to look you up because I don't think you know what you're doing. So the big blind folds and gets out of the way, and I call the small blind. The flop comes up, Queen of Hearts, 6 of Hearts, 2 of Clubs. I have a gut shot and a backdoor flush draw, but really nothing. So when the small blind bets 300, I still think he's got nothing. I still think he doesn't know how to play. I still think he's just getting used to this whole VR poker thing. So I call him. The turn comes up and it's the ace of spades, which does nothing to help me. I still need a 3 for a straight. And if he's got an ace, then now he's, you know, maybe got more confidence. But again, I still don't know. I still don't think he knows how to play. And then he picks up his cards and he looks at his cards that same awkward way he was looking at them before. And when he goes to put down his cards, he puts them over the line and he folds by mistake. So I take down a pot of just shy of 1,300 chips, uncontested, with 4-5 offsuit. Whew. So he leaves the table, couple new people come in, and I'm on the button again. When I get Jack, King, offsuit. And one of those new players, the guy with the sunglasses there, he looks like he wants to bet already, and the round hasn't even started. You can see to the right of me that there's the guy on the cutoff or the under the gun is the one to bet first. It's not getting around to the guy with the sunglasses for has to get through a couple of us, and he's already like grabbing his chips like he wants to throw them in. So when the under the gun folds, I raise it to 425, which is just under 10 big blinds. The small blind folds and the big blind calls, and we are heads up to a flop. The flop comes up 3 of spades, 7 of diamonds, queen of spades. So I have a backdoor flush draw and a backdoor straight draw, but again, not very much. The big blind bets 325. Now, last betting round, I bet 425 and he called it. This time, he's just betting 325. No, 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 no. You don't go smaller bets. So I raised it to 1300. And the big blind calls. The turn comes up, and it's the 9 of hearts. Again, nothing. The big blind checks this time. Maybe a little wary after I re-raised him last time. And so I take that as a good sign, and I bet 1500. And he folds. And I take down another pot uncontested for about 3500 chips. So this was a lunchtime bit of play. I played for about 45 minutes, and I was up 12K, which when I work this out, you take these numbers and divide them by 2000, and that is kind of like cash game equivalents. So what is that? $6? I'm up $6 if you break it down into that. So it was a pretty good play session, and it was fun to play in the 8 max game without necessarily having to have 8 people on the table at all times. And I had a good opportunity to read some people, practice some bet sizing, and ultimately bluff at some pots and win a couple of big ones too. It was a lot of fun to play, and I hope you enjoyed my video. Please like and subscribe and leave me comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you next video. Take care.